And then I guess Sumo will try to log back on to carry on, right? Okay, so let me share my screen. Oh, there's a lot of messages. Okay, are you seeing the full screen? All's good?
Yes.
Full screen? Okay. All right. So yes, so I'm Ming Hao and I'm the associate chair for students. And then basically would like to share more about student life beyond the academics. Okay, so Sumot and Raymond are in charge of academic, basically the coursework and so on. And then on my side, we look after all the non-academic related stuff. Okay, so then as Sumo has already pointed out earlier, we are a new school that has combined the chemistry together with chem engine and bioengineering. And then one of the key rationales for doing that is that it is becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish between what exactly is basic science and what exactly is engineering. And that's because when we understand, when chemists or biologists understand the basic principles and so on, we are all encouraged to try to translate our fundamental understandings to have a real impact on society. And then whereas for engineers, engineers when they manufacture things and they create processes and so on, they also have to understand the underlying basic principles of for example, the chemistry reactions and so on. So that it has become increasingly blurry. This boundary between what exactly is basic science and what exactly is an engineering discipline is becoming more blurry. And therefore, NTU and with the blessings of MOE and other government agencies, decided to merge or bring us all together. And this is actually a similar approach that has been taken at some of the other top universities in the world. For example, at Caltech and Berkeley and so on. So the chemistry is also together with chemical engineering. And so, of course, one of the concerns of our students is, what jobs do I have when we graduate? And that's a very valid question, right? You want to have a degree that is valuable and can get you a well-paying job. And indeed, if you look at the industry transformation maps from MTI, you can actually see that our graduates are very well poised for the future, right? Because the government is placing a lot of emphasis on things like sustainability, clean energy, green energy, chemicals, manufacturing. We have a massive Jurong Islands of all sorts of petrochemical plants. And then beyond, energy and chemicals, the healthcare has recently, of course, attracted a tremendous amount of attention, right, because of the pandemic. And then, of course, there's also a lot of emphasis on food manufacturing, which our graduates are very well poised to enter as well. So then these are just some numbers from EDB, right? So to cut a long story short, I think the future is very bright because there are a lot of companies operating in Singapore today, both multinational companies and also startups, and the investment amounts are not trivial. And as you can see, they're all running in the billions and billions of dollars, hiring a lot of people to work in the companies. And then here are just some examples of some of the companies that have come and set up shop locally in Singapore. So then the first example there is the BASF. So BASF is actually the world's largest chemical producer. So I think it was founded in the 1920s, it's based in Germany. So today they hire over 100,000 people. Half of them are, of course, in Germany, and then the rest are scattered around the world. And then we have, they have decided to set up a plant here in Singapore as well. And then the second example is the Total Energies, the French energy giant. I think if I remember correctly, it's probably like the third or the fourth largest energy company in the world. And so they have set up the Asia Pax HQ in Singapore as well. And then you have the Saudi Arabia SABIC also coming here to produce chemicals, polymers, and so on. And then the Finland's gas and oil and gas company NES is also here. NES, I think, was founded in about 1940s because Finland was very concerned about its security, from a national security perspective of their supply of oil and gas. So they created NES in the 1940s. But then, of course, it has grown a lot, and the company has also set up shop in Singapore. So beyond energy and chemicals, let's move on. Right, then, the medtech space today is tremendously exciting. Then before COVID, there are companies that are already coming in. So things like PerkinElmer. So PerkinElmer is a very large instruments manufacturer for bio-related research. So if you have done research in any bio-related lab, likelihood is you have used some instrument that is manufactured by PerkinElmer, because they produce really a lot of instruments that we use. So then they set up a manufacturing facility in Singapore. Then, of course, over the course of the pandemic, you can see that a lot of research groups have stepped up and created a lot of innovative technologies. Some from NUS and A-Star, and some from NTU as well. Things like masks, swabs, and so on. And then here I'd like to highlight the Tracy breath analyzer, which was developed by one of our chemistry professors here in NTU CCEB. And it's basically you have a cartridge where you breathe in, and then it gives you a detection of whether you are positive or negative. And here you can see the PM trialing the breath analyzer in Parliament, and it was also in trial at Changi Airport as well. Right, so then we have a spin-off company, Silver Factory, that's trying to commercialize the technology right now. So beyond medtech, there's of course also pharma and biotech, which are growing in Singapore as well. So then we have GSK that has opened a large manufacturing facility very close to NTU campus. And then more recently, GenScript has also set up a 30,000 square foot manufacturing facility. So GenScript is a very large company that manufactures things like recombinant proteins, DNA, and so on. So if you have done some bio-related research, likelihood is you have ordered DNA oligos either from this company called IDT or from GenScript. So GenScript is one of the big DNA synthesis companies today, and they are creating a plant. They have set up a plant in Singapore. All right, so then of course, with COVID, there's also this excitement about vaccines, and manufacturing of vaccines. And you can see that, BioNTech has set up shop in Singapore, as well as Hulaman Labs to produce vaccines. So then, there's a lot of jobs that's going to come up in this space in the next year or so, okay, in terms of vaccine manufacturing. So these are all, all the jobs that, our graduates are very well poised to take up. And I think, the future is actually very bright. So looking ahead, of course, now everyone is talking about, a sustainable, and circular bioeconomy, and that's because, we are all facing a lot of global challenges, from climate change, to environmental pollution, to a growing demands for food and energy, because the number of people living on Earth is just growing more and more every day. And of course, people are talking about, okay, so how do we come up with innovative solutions to address some of these global problems, right? So I'm sure some of you here have already tried the Impossible Burger, which is meat that is not really meat, right? It's the meatless burger. And then now you can have ice cream that's not really made from cow's milk, right? But from some substitute of the milk that's animal free, and so on. Right, so there's a lot of efforts in trying to create all these meatless burgers, milkless ice cream, and so on. And then in the energy space, there's also a lot of interest in from all the big petrochemical companies to look at sustainable green solutions. So for example, ExxonMobil is collaborating with a company called Synthetic Genomics to try to engineer or select for new algae strains to produce biofuels. Okay, so that is to replace fossil fuels in years to come. And then in terms of, for example, in terms of chocolates, right? Well, many of us like to eat chocolates. But then cacao, the food crop, is unfortunately very susceptible to all sorts of diseases. So Mars, the company that produces chocolates, is collaborating with IGI. So IGI is based at Berkeley, directed by Jennifer Doudna, who won the Nobel Prize for CRISPR genetic engineering. And Mars is collaborating with her institute to engineer cacao plants that will be resistant to disease. Okay, so these are some examples of innovative solutions that scientists are coming up with to address some of the global challenges. Then of course, CCEB faculty are at the scientific forefront as well. So here are some examples of what our faculty are doing. And then the first one here shows Mary Chan, who has invented a smart food packaging. So you can see her holding her packaging wrapped around strawberries. And the packaging is made from naturally derived biopolymers, infused with antimicrobial compounds. And I think she has managed to demonstrate that her packaging can help to keep the strawberries fresh for a longer period of time. Then, of course, we have William Chen, who is the food guru in NTU and in Singapore, who is an expert at upcycling food waste. So here, he has taken discarded durian husk. So we all like to eat durians, right? And then you just throw away the husk. And then he can actually take the husk and create bandages, antimicrobial bandages out of the durian husk. Then on the energy front, so then we have Zhongming, who is working on research to convert electronic waste into petri dishes that are being used in cell culture in the lab. So bio-related labs, we use petri dishes to grow our cells, and we generate a lot of plastic waste. And then basically, Zhongming and his collaborators have found a way to convert electronic waste to all these plastic petri dishes. And NTU actually currently also has this very interesting waste to energy facility in Tuas. And one of our faculty members, Paul, is involved in this. And the facility basically takes trash from the university campus and convert them into useful stuff, right? Syngas, construction materials, and so on. This is actually a real operating plant in Tuas. And I think it's a very exciting development. And then on the biomedical space, right here, the top, we have Chen Peng, right, who has invented a skin patch that consists of hundreds of microneedles that can help to deliver drugs transdermally directly to the fat under the skin. So that's a very useful drug delivery system. And then below you have Tram, one of our young faculty, who is developing a new method to encapsulate your pancreatic beta cells to deliver insulin for diabetic patients. And I think she's trying to create a startup out of her invention as well. Okay, so there are many, many different very exciting research areas that are ongoing at CCEB. So hopefully you can explore more of what is going on in our school. And then, of course, we are very keen to help and support students in pursuing their interests. So we have all sorts of student interest groups ongoing. For example, Makerspace, we have Biomakerspace, Zymergy, food waste conversion, and so on. So then in Makerspace, we have a series of 3D printers that the students can use to build anything that they want, basically, right? And then the students who are involved in Makerspace also run various workshops like Arduino workshops, 3D printing workshops, and so on, to teach our students at large how to use all this 3D printing technology. Then we also have an ANATAR, Analytics and Data student interest group. So this bunch of students are very interested in computing. And so then they regularly hold all sorts of workshops, for example, on machine learning, how do you program in Python, data structure, data visualization, and so on. right? And that's basically you can brush up on your computing knowledge from this interest group. And then we also have the food waste conversions activity, which has been ongoing for a few years, where we use black soldier fly larvae to digest food waste. So the larva actually has a huge appetite. They can eat up to 10 times their body weight. So they can help to convert food waste, into other. They can help to get rid of food waste, and also we can extract useful biomaterials from them as well, like chitin, and so on. And then we are also now trying to set up some equipments that enables us to genetically engineer larvae so that they can be more useful for food waste conversion as well. Okay, so beyond food waste conversions, then we also have another student interest group called the Zymergy Guild. So this is quite a popular interest group because it involves fermentations. And of course, if you think about fermentation, the first thing comes to mind is your beer, right? So this is basically a fermentation club where students can, as the word suggests, you ferment whatever you want, your beer, your kombucha, kimchi, and what have you. And then we actually also have 25-liter bioreactors that the students can use if they choose to move towards a more a realistic scaling up, to explore commercialization and so on. So then the Zymergy Guild runs this beer brewing competitions every year. This is also another very popular event in our school, and it's typically the prizes are sponsored from breweries and so on. And then here are some pictures showing the students who have taken part. And then I was actually also chatted with some of the judges when they were here, and then they are all come from many of them come from the industry, right? They run their own breweries, and so on. And then they actually said to me that they are very happy to sponsor this event because they want to check out what new flavors our student has created, and then maybe they can copy the inventions, the new brews, and bring it back with them. So that's why they are very willing to sponsor this competition. Okay, so then besides the brewing competition, we also have an annual Chemi-Car competition. So this Chemi-Car competition was, I believe, first started in the US, and then we are also running it. So basically, students have to build their own vehicles to do certain tasks. Usually is to move objects from one place to another. And then the vehicles have to be driven by chemical reactions. Okay, so it's basically a car that is driven by chemical reactions, right? So then in the past we have companies like Micron that has sponsored the competitions, and usually the students have quite a lot of fun in building their cars as well to perform the task. Okay, so then another competition that our students take part in is this iGEM synthetic biology competitions. So we have been taking part in it since, I believe, 2015 or so on. So basically here, the students embark on projects that are related to, as the name suggests, synthetic biology. Okay, so then they engineer living system, biomolecules, to do useful stuff, biomedical, biotechnology, which can be anything that's related to healthcare, energy, food, so on and so forth, right? As long as it involves engineering of, for example, living cells, like your E. coli and your yeast and so on. Or you can even involve things like engineering your enzymes for useful applications. So this is actually a very big international competition that takes place once a year, and usually around the end of October or beginning of November. And then the students actually have to gather. Usually it's in Boston, so we have to fly the team of students there, and then they have to present the project, in terms of oral presentation and a poster to a panel of judges, so on and so forth. So usually about there's thousands and thousands of participants from hundreds of universities around the world that will gather at this presentation events. So this event is also very popular among our students as well. Okay, so then the NTU itself also organized, this program called the Overseas Community Exposure Project. So during the COVID pandemic, of course, it was stopped. So these pictures are from right before the pandemic, where some of our students went to Myanmar, to do community service, to improve water. Here they work on infrastructure, improving the water drainage system, giving lessons to the underprivileged kids and so on. Right, and I believe that this initiative has restarted after the pandemic. Okay, so then we have also been very active in trying to organize industry visits and getting alumni to come back and share, so on and so forth. So then here are some pictures of students who have gone on company visits. So for example, here you have students who visited in sector to look at how the startup actually grow their black soldier flies and so on. Okay, so then we have a student lounge for our students to chill and hang out, and hopefully also be able to interact with faculty. And then we have all sorts of facilities that are, or games that are available in the lounge. And then of course we have our school club, which I think Tien and Crystal will share more about later. And then the school club is very active in organizing, all sorts of events for students, as well as welfare, okay, to enrich student life. And then most recently, we held our very first Avogadro's Day on 6th of February, because it's 6.02. And then here you can see, we provided avocados, toast and brewed coffee and so on. And I think Tien can share more about this Avogadro's Day later. Okay, so then our hope is that when students step into our school, onto NTU campus, we have our orientations, and our hope is that all of you students will be able to make long-lasting friendships. And usually you start making friends during your orientations, and some of these friendships last for a very long time, and maybe even for life. And then from our office, we try to support, provide academic support, student care. So we have a pastoral care manager who helps to, address student issues that may not even be academic related, right? You may have family issues, emotional issues, stress, and so on. And we also run the peer tutoring programs where we recruit stronger students to give tutoring or tuition to those students who are struggling in their courses. Okay, so I'd like to end here. So we look forward to hopefully having you join us in the future and embark on an exciting journey with us. And then please feel free to contact us if you have any questions. So this is the bunch of us in the student office, and there's me, and there's Zhen Yang, the assistant chair, and there's Gordon here, who is the pastoral care manager, and we have Zahida and Hira, who are actually right here in the call as well. Okay, so please feel free to ask questions if you have any later on.
Thank you, Prof. Tan, for the insight into our student life. And lastly, right, just slides. Okay, so lastly, we have fellow students, Tian and Crystal from our school club to share the experiences as a student in CCEB, like what CCEB club provides.
Okay, thank you.
You can see the slides.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I am Xiren, and together with me, we have Crystal. And today we'll be sharing on behalf of CCEB Club. So we'll first do an introduction about ourselves, followed by an introduction of the club, its respective portfolios and initiatives, and finally our takeaways from being in a club. So firstly, I am Xiren. I was from Nanyang Junior College. I'm currently a second-year chemical engineering student, and I'm the CCEB club president this year. I have a second major in food science, and I'm a recipient of the Nanyang Scholarship.
Hi Hi, my name is Crystal, and I'm a year 3 undergraduate student taking CBC with a second major in environmental science. So I used to be from Raffles Junior College, and I'm currently the vice president of CCB Club. So I also did Eureka, which is the undergraduate research experience on campus. So I had a rather multifaceted undergraduate experience in CCEB. So next, Tian will introduce our club.
Okay, thank you, Crystal. So moving on, what is CCEB Club? CCEB Club is our school's academic club that takes care of our students' welfare, as well as organize events for our students to enjoy, socialize, and have fun in. We have different portfolios that plan different kinds of events and initiatives, and I'll be sharing more on this later. Apart from planning events for our students, we also act as a bridge between the school and the students. With platforms like the annual student feedback survey, we help to convey comments and concerns students may have with regards to their academic and student life to the school's admin staff and professors, and work hard to mitigate and resolve the issues raised. So next, I'll be sharing about the different portfolios that we have and what are some of the initiatives that we have done up so far. Firstly, we have the academic welfare, who is in charge of organizing academic-related events such as study groups, networking sessions, and quiz nights. Next, we have our logistic committee, which is in charge of managing and maintaining inventory and preparing logistics for our club events. So what we have here is one of our past initiatives done up by Academic Welfare and Logistic Club. So Academic Welfare organized a study group session where they booked tutorial rooms for our students to study in, and our logistic committee stocked up the study room and also our lounge with food such as packet drinks, fruits, and also yogurts. So next we have our BISMAC committee, which is in charge of sourcing for sponsorship for the school and the club. So this is our exam welfare pack distribution for semester 1 back in November. So as you can see here, we managed to get sponsors from Ribena, What If Food, and also one of our key sponsors was Avalis Financial, which is a financial advisor company, which provided us with cash sponsor that allowed us to procure items such as bubble tea and ice cream for our students. Next, we also have our clan committee. So upon joining CCEB, you are encouraged to go for orientation, as it will help you connect and make friends with both seniors and peers. From there, you'll be allocated a clan, and our clan committee takes over from after orientation, where they will organize inter-clan and intra-clan events and bonding sessions to cultivate a strong clan culture here in CCEB. So one of the events that they have done up recently, just in January, was a back-to-school event where they held inter-clan sports tournament and inter-clan chalkboard design competition, followed by a closing night and Chinese New Year celebration. I'll now hand over my time to Krista to share more about our other portfolios.
So next, we also have our publicity and publications team, aka PMP, who work tirelessly to not only organize their own events like merchandise designing competitions and club photo shoots, but they also help to promote every single event and support all the other portfolios throughout the entire year. As you can see, they also share our recent activities on our CCEB Instagram and promote it through their own designs. So next, we also have our social portfolio, who organizes most of the large-scale events. For example, Avogadro's Day that Prof. Tan mentioned earlier, where we had an amazing race because we have 2 campuses from the CBC side and also the CB and BIE side. We had an amazing race so that our students can be introduced to both campuses and get to know people from all courses, since we are a newly formed school. And there were a lot of amazing prizes to be won as well. And we also catered free coffee with people who came down to work at the coffee machine as well. And we also catered avocado toast as a little pun on Avogadro's Day. So they also helped to organize the Chinese New Year event, as mentioned earlier by Qian. So it really provides our CCB students with the opportunity to interact with each other and make new friends and bond over fun activities and catered food. So finally, we have our sports portfolio that helps to organize the inter-school sports games and other sports games that CCEB students can participate in together. So for example, the interclan sports that Tian mentioned earlier was under our sports portfolio as well. So altogether, our CCEB club has been an adventure in first-hand experiences as we learn and grow to make each event better than the last. So I really enjoyed watching our different portfolios work together to create events beyond what each portfolio can organize, on their own. So they can collaborate on projects to, amplify the fun. This therefore gave us the chance to explore many new event formats and allow us to combine multiple initiatives to bring CCEB a more diverse and fulfilling student life experience. Even though we face many difficulties along the way, these setbacks allow us to learn from every event to improve on the next. And finally, as the first CCEB club, this was a great opportunity to leave a legacy and start new traditions that we hope future batches can improve on as well. So thank you. I'll pass the time back to the MCs to carry on the Q&A.
Thank you, Jian and Crystal, for the nice sharing on CCEB club. So now, I'm not sure if Dr. Sumot is back in. Dr. Sumot, do you need to continue sharing your?
Yeah, I think there was some technical problem when we went into the live stream, and I could not. I didn't realize here that the cut. So I think what I meant to continue in my remaining part of the talk was basically more about the curriculum and structure.
Okay.
Yeah, so just a shout out to the students attending, the visitors, that if you would like to know more about the detailed curriculum, you can take a look at our website where all the curriculum information is there. Please feel free also to clarify things during the question and answer session we are going to have now. And even afterwards, if you have any doubt, you're free to write into our school and drop your questions and your queries. Or alternatively, there is a in-person open house and a virtual session coming up later today afternoon. So hopefully you can attend one of those, and then you can get to know more information about the curriculum. Yeah. So any questions you have, this is also a good opportunity to ask, because the talk got cut off halfway through due to some technical issues. Thank you.
Yeah, so as Dr. Sumot said, we will have a Q&A session now. He did mention that you can see a lot of information in the website. I will share the link to the site if you haven't seen it yet, and you can also check, for example, any prerequisites for your IB or any other information, like basic information you require to apply to a major. Apart from that, if anyone has any questions to ask right now, you may either type it in the chat, or you can click the reactions, raise hand, and you can unmute and ask it. So does anyone have any questions to ask verbally? Okay, so if not, I will first go through the one that are already in the chat. So as for the IB requirement, I've looked at the website. The HL Math is a prerequisite. So yeah, you can see that in the website. Then for Sunita's question, as Prof. Sumot mentioned, CBC is a science major. So it's not really engineering, but the school intends to have like a bit of a synergy between engineering and science. Yeah, so
yeah, just to add on there, Swati. Yeah, so for example, just to give you an idea about the kind of opportunities you get across programs. For example, when you're doing your final year project, right? If you're an chemical engineering student, or a bioengineering student, or a chemistry and biological chemistry student, if you see any project that is offered by our faculty members, which transcends the 3 areas, right, but has a significant component of focus on your single degree area, right? You can choose to take up that final year project within the school. So all final year projects within the school offered by any of the faculty members is open to any student, as long as the focus area meets your main degree criteria. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And also Joy has asked, what is the difference between second major and double major? In this case, it is usually that, given that based on our academic structure, a second major would not really add a lot of workload. So it's,
okay, let me answer
actually,
that question.
I'll let Prof. Raymond answer it. Yeah.
Okay, so just to clarify, we actually do not have a double major in the school. So the program that we have is called a double degree, which is a combination of engineering and economics. So the difference between a second major and double degree, it's primarily in the amount of coursework that is needed. So second major has slightly more AUs than a single degree, but you can still complete them within 4 years. And you will have one certificate that indicates this second major. For double degree, on the other hand, you'll get 2 degree certificates. And so, for example, if you have the combination of bioengineering with economics, you will have one certificate for bioengineering and then another certificate for economics. And it would have a higher degree requirements. And in that case, the study plan actually will require 5 years to complete this double degree.
Okay, so oh yeah, Sunita is asking if biology is a prerequisite. Not really. Is there any difference now? Because in 2019 it was. Yes. I think she's also asking about concurrent degrees.
Yeah, so I think you have to look at it because the prerequisites for the degree programs can vary slightly. They can also vary slightly for the second major programs. So the biology prerequisite is there for the bioengineering program, as well as for the chemistry bachelor program and some of the associated second majors. But Raymond, do correct me if I'm wrong, but for the chemical engineering, the biology is not a prerequisite, right?
That's correct. Biology is not a prerequisite for neither bioengineering nor chemical and biomolecular engineering. So if it is regarding the engineering degree, actually the mathematics would be the more important prerequisites for admission.
Okay, so there's another question. Does the school allow students to take a second major or double degree after they have been admitted into a single degree program?
So let me answer that as well. So at the current state, we typically would only be accepting the application for second major and double degree during admission. Okay, so from time to time, we might have some ad hoc invitation to second major programs, but it would not be on a regular basis. So my suggestion actually would be, if you're interested in these second major or double degree, do apply right now, and you can drop without any string attached. So if you feel that it is too difficult and it's difficult for you to cope, you can still drop afterwards. But on the other hand, if you do not apply it right now, and later on you said you're interested, actually the opportunity may not be there anymore.
Okay, so let's see, is there any? Okay, so Melvin has asked if CCEB very math-based, since it is an engineering course. Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, because of varied programs, the prerequisites for the programs are different. But for the engineering side, mathematics is a prerequisite. However, it's not the same for the chemistry side. Mathematics is not a prerequisite for the chemistry program. However, for some of the second majors, like for example, if you will wish to pursue the second major in data analytics, right? Because as the name suggests, you need a solid foundation in mathematics in order to pursue that second major. So for certain second majors, they will have their own prerequisite, and for the data analytics one, mathematics is a prerequisite. Yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so there's another question, which is what are the careers and industry prospects for CBE majors?
I'll answer that as well. Actually, Prof. Tan Ming Hao early on have shared about the opportunities. So even though we're talking about chemical and molecular engineering, so our graduates actually can venture into many different industries. So I'll just give some statistics. In the last year, about 20% of our graduates are working in the pharmaceutical industries, 20% in the chemical industries, and about 20% in the semiconductor industries. So from the name suggests, I guess it is more logical for you to consider the chemical as well as the pharmaceutical industries. But even for semiconductor industries, they do require a lot of chemical engineers to help them with the manufacturing processes of the fibers and then the memory chips and so on. So there are also a number of our graduates who would venture into banks to analyze trends of the different products as well as companies. So one thing that I would want to emphasize is that even though we are talking about engineering, I mean, whatever the engineering you're dealing with, a lot of time do not focus only on the industry itself, but focus on what you would be doing in the company. So for example, pharmaceutical industries, they hire bioengineers, they hire chemists, they hire chemical engineers, they also hire mechanical engineers and so on. But then the job scopes that they would be doing are very different. So yeah, I would say not to focus too much on a particular industry, but focus on what you intend to do in those industries. To share that probably is going to take another hour or two. So I would suggest you to go through a website that is called Skills Future. So over there, there are a lot of information about the various industries and what is the workforce size in each of these industry and some average pay information over there as well. So if you want to have information on those as a guideline, do check it out. So I'll type the name of that in the chat box, so you can just Google search the information.
Okay, so since there aren't any other questions in the chat, I will go through some of the questions that were submitted before the session. So the first one is about knowing about the scholarships provided. I will paste the link for that, but if there's anything relevant to CCEB, if Prof may answer that.
Yeah, in terms of scholarships, there's a significant number of scholarships. Different scholarships have different eligibility criteria and expectations. So the best way for you to explore scholarship options which are available for you will be to go to the link that has just now been posted and read carefully the eligibility criteria for the various scholarships. And then just apply for whichever you are eligible for. You don't need to be selective in applying for one or two. You can apply for all the relevant scholarships that are listed there for which you meet the eligibility criteria. Right. Yeah.
Okay, another question which I think hasn't been addressed yet is how does the course selection work for CCEB, especially in CBE? So I'm taking this to mean like module selection, maybe. Yeah. That's the question.
I think for every degree program, there's a core curriculum that, you have all the courses that you must take. But then I think the electives gets more interesting in our school, because now that chemistry and the engineering side are together in one school. So that is, it's very straightforward for, let's say, a chemistry student wants to take elective over in chemical engineering or bioengineering. So then, you can easily do that, and vice versa as well, right? So just now Suma also shared about the FYP, right? The final year project, where now you can basically choose your supervisor to be from any faculty in the school. So you can be a chemistry undergrads, but you can choose to do more, for example, bioengineering related FYP, and that's not an issue at all. Yeah, so there's a lot of flexibility in terms of course selection within the school. And then out across the school, that can also be accommodated. Because usually, we will have discussions with other schools on sharing electives as well. So there's, for example, we will communicate with School of Biological Sciences, for example, to say that, okay, we will allow, we will have, let's some number of SBS biological sciences students take our elective, and then in return you will allow some of our students to take your elective. So then we between schools we also do this kind of arrangement. So if there are electives that you're interested in, I don't think there will be, usually there's no issue in registering for them.
Okay, thanks. Back to chat, there's a question on what's the difference between biological science and bioengineering in industry?
I would say it's very different. So in the industry, a lot of time, I would say they would probably be taking in engineers rather than scientists. I mean, if you are talking about biological science, I would consider them as scientists. So I would say, at least, let's just talk about the differences between biological science and bioengineering. So just now, also Prof. Tan Ling Hao mentioned about one of our colleagues who actually invented the microneedle patches to deliver drugs under the skin. So now, if we want to break this into two aspects, what is the biological science aspect and what is the bioengineering aspect? So biological science would be understanding what would be the physical structures of the skin, what are the components, what are the resistance involved. But then it is the bioengineers who will be developing the solutions based on those knowledge to help us deliver the drugs. So we will be inventing the patches, but we are not going to be doing too much in terms of, I mean, we still need to have the understanding of the biological aspects, but we are looking at developing products or processes to make these information in the applications. So the next question is, a pass in physics prerequisite for bioengineering course? Okay, I'm not sure whether a pass in physics, it's meaning a pass in physics in A level or O level. So we need a minimum of O level physics only. And then if you do not have that, then we actually would have a physics course in the first year. And that physics course, it's going to be a part of your core subjects. So in that case, if you're referring to a pass in physics with the undergraduate program, then yes, it is. But then physics alone is not going to be a requirement for the applicant, for the admission to the bioengineering program. And then I think early on, there's another question by Sunita about the concurrent degrees. To clarify, I guess, do we offer concurrent degrees? So I'm not very sure what you meant by concurrent degrees. So just now I mentioned that we have double degree, which is a combination of an engineering and economics. The other ones, we would call it second majors. And second major, it is still, you only get one single degree certificate, but then the second major would come in as an additional components to it. So we don't really have a concept of concurrent degree. So yeah, I guess we'll need to get some clarification on that.
Okay, so I think there's just like one more question from the previously asked before the session, which is some tips for getting accepted, like advice on how, like what will help students to get accepted into the program.
Okay, I think I can take that. So basically, there is, of course, people look at your scores and your grades, and then, the most, if you are a top tier student, you don't have to worry about that, because basically you'll be accepted, regardless of where you apply to. But then now, more and more, we are actually moving towards this concept of what we call aptitude-based admissions. So then basically this is where we look at what actually the student has done or demonstrated that's show that the student is really interested in a particular program that he or she is applying to. So then, of course, there's a lot of questions on things like, is biology required? Is to get into bioengineering? Is chemistry required to get into chemical engineering? So on and so forth. Then there are so then on the prerequisites, the hard prerequisites part, we have tried to reduce it to the minimum possible, so that as many people can apply and potentially be admitted and so on. And then beyond that, right? So then beyond that, we actually look quite a lot at the aptitude, right? So things like sometimes we will interview students depending on the cases, right? And then we will ask students like, okay, so what have you done to show that you are interested in bioengineering, right? So sometimes I ask students that when I interview them, right? Or what have you done to show that you're interested in chemical engineering, right? And then hopefully you have a good answer for that, right? Because then that shows that you're very proactively pursuing your interest. So then with regards to tips for getting accepted, so keep in mind that NTU as a whole, we are moving more and more towards aptitude-based admissions, because we believe that grades can only tell one part of an applicant, right? Of course, if you score a perfect score, well, that's obviously you can take exams very well, right? But most students will not have perfect scores and so on, right? So most students will have moderate GPAs, some B's, some A's, a mixture of grades, right? And from this, we need to be able to identify those students who have the right aptitude to excel or do well in our programs, right? And that's where all this other stuff that you're pursuing becomes very important.
Yeah, so I think there's a few more questions in the chat. For the scholarship, does the appraisal form have to be written from different teachers in their school, or would one appraisal form be okay?
Yeah, I'm not sure about exactly the procedures, because you see, as faculty, we've never seen the other side of the application. But again, what I would strongly suggest to you is that for the scholarship website that we have in NTU, the microsite, there is a contact information available there. So you can write in, because it relates to a very specific part of the application process. Please write into the scholarship office in NTU, mention which scholarship that you are applying to, because different scholarships may have different application formats, and then just check with them on on the process. If you do not get an answer from the scholarship team, do feel free to write into the school at the email address that we have mentioned earlier, and we will get the clarification for you. Yeah. There's a question there also about, I think there's a clarification on the concurrent degree question earlier. So the concurrent degree was alluding to what some of the UK universities have, where within the span of, they say, 4 to 5 years, you graduate with a direct postgraduate degree. So we don't have, in NTU, we don't have that kind of a system. So what our NTU students typically do is that they finish their bachelor program within 4 years, right? Sometimes you can graduate earlier than 4. So they finish the graduate program, undergraduate program in 4 years, and then they go on to join the postgraduate program either overseas or with us in NTU. So if you are joining the postgraduate program and it's the PhD program, so if you have an undergraduate degree, you don't need a master's degree to apply for the PhD program. So if you're an NTU student with an undergraduate degree, you can directly apply for the PhD program. And typically the PhD program, again, you complete within 4 years. So you get 2 degrees, the undergraduate degree and the PhD. Yeah.
Okay. The next one is double degree more useful than single degree when job hunting?
Let me address that portion. So I think the main difference between double degree and a single degree, it's really on the 2 certificates. Now, which one would be more useful? So what I can tell you is that from the employer point of view, you will not get any favorable treatment if you have 2 degrees, because from employer, they only need to get the job done. So whether you have 1 degree or 2 degrees, it doesn't really matter. But then the added advantage of the double degree would be that because now you have additional knowledge from a different field, and these give you a unique advantage. So in the case that the company are looking for somebody who has this economic knowledge, for example, then in that case, you will be able to solve these problems somewhat better than your counterparts which have a single degree. And at the same time, it would also be that you can expand the job search. Now you're not limiting to the jobs that are available for engineers only. You can also look for jobs that are, look at positions that are looking for people with economic knowledge. So in that case, the scope that you can have for job hunting would be somewhat wider than the engineering counterparts. But of course, in the end, you probably may only need one part of the knowledge. Which part is it to be the more useful one or valuable? Then I guess it's really hard to say and depends on the individuals.
Okay, so I think the last one here is, does being PR a foreigner, factor into admission criteria, and is there any minimum percentage difference for PR and foreigner versus locals?
Okay, I can take that. So the admission criteria for PR and especially for foreigner is a little bit more stringent. So the official hard cutoff point for PR is a little bit higher than citizen, and for foreigner is still a little bit higher than the first 2 classes. Okay, so but then having said that, then just to reiterate what I mentioned earlier about the aptitude-based admissions, because then we have this, this hard cutoff for people that we will definitely admit. So usually the cutoff tends to be quite high. So then there's, the citizen, then PR, then foreigner, right? So then there's this this hard cutoff. Then there's this big range that we look at, right? And then in this big range, then it becomes a little bit more looking at the things that you have done, your aptitude, and so on. And then in that situations, it doesn't matter as much whether you are a PR or foreigner, because if you are, a PR who has done amazing things outside of school to demonstrate your interest, I think we will be happy to take you in, if that's the case. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. I think for now there's no more questions in the chat. Does anyone else have any questions about the program or about student life in CCEB? If not, then we can conclude the session here. Thank you to all the presenters, and I hope all of you found this session useful. If you have any more questions, is there anywhere they can approach to ask these questions. I think apart from the CCEB admissions email, which maybe I will retype just in case it got lost. Yeah, so I think with that, we have concluded today's virtual open house session.